to this edition of Crush Your Mountain Wellness. And I'll tell you what, folks, if you're looking at the screen right now, you'll see a gentleman who looks like no one else that I've had on the program so far. But I'll tell you, as unique as his appearance is, his story, his intellect, his insights are even higher and even more unique. Let me tell you a little bit about him. This is Mr. Ben Corliss. He is a trainer for 20 years. He does personal training. And if you go on Instagram, you won't find Ben Corliss. You will find Trains with Wolves. And we're going to find out a little bit about that. He's lived with wolves for a good while, and he actually trains with them. If you go on his Instagram page, you'll see the wolves laying around, walking around, and he is doing what he can in terms of building muscle. And that's really what we want to talk about too, because he has an interesting story and interesting heritage, and we're going to tap into that. But more importantly, what we want to know and what we want to encourage everyone to do is to understand why the building of muscle is so important and so vital when we pass 30 years old, when we pass 40 years old, when we're 50 years old, it's even more important. Why is that the case? I've got an expert with me, as I always do, and we're going to welcome him right now. Ben Corliss, Trains with Wolves. Welcome to Crush Your Mountain Wellness.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So yeah, it's Lifts with Wolves, not Trains with Wolves. Lifts with Wolves is the Instagram name. So people can find me in here, not looking for the wrong name. But yes, I've been a trainer for 20 years. As far as muscle, I mean, a lot of people get the idea, they think about building muscle as just the aesthetics of having big muscle. But when you get down to what muscle really is, that's how our body does literally anything. That's how your lungs expand. It takes muscle to actually move the lungs. Your heart's a muscle. It takes muscles to swallow. It takes muscles to chew, to see. Everything that you do, to move, everything is muscle. And when you don't use it, you lose it as you age. That's basically what happens after the age of 25. So up until the age of 25, we're generating new cells at a faster rate. That's how we grow from children into adults. And then after the age of 25, our cells in our body start dying at a faster rate than they're repaired, which is what the aging process is. That's where the gray comes from. And that's how all that happens. So when you just sit around and don't do anything and don't use your body, you're just going into more of a state of catabolism, which is the breakdown of muscle. You're just extenuating that aging process because you're not using your body. When you're using your body with anything active, but particularly weight training causes micro tears in the muscle. It grows back stronger. That's how we build muscle. But when you're doing that on a consistent basis, you're putting your body in that constant state of regeneration. So you're basically backing up the aging process. So that's literally is. If you're not doing anything, it just goes away. My grandpa is actually a really good example of this. He just actually passed away a few months ago, age of 92. Yeah, and it was just his body was just getting old, but he was very, very, very active up until then. Like when he was in the hospital because his heart was just basically done. He was 92 years old. You know, he lived a long, very good life, but it was a very weird experience for him, I'm sure. I mean, I talked to him and stuff, but then he was having a hard time with it because he didn't feel like he was dying. You know what I mean? He was, 92 years old. He was at the end of his life. But because he had been so active his whole life, he still felt good. He still felt young. So it was a little bit of a strange thing for him to come to terms with the fact that he was actually dying. And he ended up, still being around for another 3.5 months from the time that they basically like this is the end. Like he didn't have any kind of disease or nothing. Like nothing was wrong. His body was just at the end. It was just done. But he had that long life because of that, as opposed to some people that are dropping at in their 60s, 70s. I mean, some people honestly even in their 30s and 40s or people can start. I've had people I went to high school with. I'm 37 years old. I have people that I went to high school with that have passed away from heart attacks. from
Listen,
age.
you're preaching to a choir again, because the fact of the matter is, when we think about it, the fact of the matter is, look at what's happened. What's it? Lisa Marie Presley, 54 years old. 54 years old. And I know individuals who, like you said, have lived. Can you say they've lived their lives to the fullest if they don't make half a century or just barely cross that? You know,
no, because I mean, I don't think so. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I mean, honestly, I mean, people are going to debate. You know, there's definitely the adage. It's not the amount of years in your life; it's the amount of life in your years. So I could definitely get behind that, right? But if you're passing away in your 50s, that's not necessary. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just as a human being can live longer than that. So in my opinion, I mean, even if you had a whole lot of life in your years in those 54 years, you still could have had a lot more, you know. I saw a video clip the other day with John Travolta. It was like an interview, and he was talking about his son was talking to him, and he's 60, he said, and his son asked him, you know, if he remembers what it was like to be 30, and he goes, yeah, and he goes, does that seem like a long time ago? He goes, yeah, it seems like a really long time ago. And he goes, well, do you think you got 30 more years? And he goes, yeah, I do. And he said it completely changed his perspective on aging, because he was 60, feeling like he was starting to, you know, get old, for especially everything that guy's been through, you know, in Hollywood. But then realizing that having another 30 years and then thinking back about how long that really is, you know, is a pretty incredible thing to think about.
You know, I'll tell you, one of the things that I really appreciate too is the fact that, you know, from a biblical standpoint, the scripture says we're promised 70 or 80 years. You see what I'm saying? They say anything beyond 70, if you're 80 or plus, that's called special mightiness. But these days, the longevity community, the scientists there, the doctors there, are finding ways of increasing lifespan. Dave Asprey, the guy who invented bulletproof coffee, he states his plan is to live to 180. Now, in this world, I don't know about that. I don't know that I would want to live that long in this world, the way society is. But I look forward to a time when death will not be a problem. Let's put it that way. The idea, though, is that people these days have options to extend their lives. There's a book coming out by Dr. Mark Hyman that discusses longevity, live younger, grow old, grow young, something like that he has. But that's coming out soon. And there are other books out there now that are brand new that talk about the science of aging and the science of reversing or maintaining your age, maintaining your youth. Tell us something a little bit. You know, I don't know if you've dealt with clients who were type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetic, but if you have, how has the use of muscle come into play with either reversing or controlling that illness?
It's a lot of that. It comes from just insulin sensitivity. So when you start to balance your metabolism out, when you start to learn how to use nutrition as fuel, which it actually is, then you can start to balance that a lot better. You lose weight, that can help reverse type 2 diabetes. There's a number of benefits. I mean, I can't speak well enough on the subject to say how it actually works, like like, you know, in greater detail and stuff like that. I think a lot of people would not know what I'm talking about anyway. But yeah, it very much it helps with so putting on the muscle increases your metabolism, right? For every pound of muscle burns 50 calories a day, right? So if you add 10 pounds of muscle, which is not a lot, you know, for an average person, like you're not going to look like me adding 10 pounds of muscle. You know what I'm saying? Like 10 pounds of muscle is going to be barely noticeable. You'll have a little bit more, you know, tone and tightness to your body. You'll look better, but you're not going to look like a bodybuilder putting on 10 pounds, right? But that 10 pounds is going to burn an additional 500 calories a day just to rest, just to preserve it, just to be on your body, right? So that's increasing that caloric burn, 500 calories a day over a 7-day period, that's 3,500 calories, which is a pound of fat. So just by adding that 10 pounds of muscle, you're going to start losing a pound of fat a week just by having that muscle on your body, not even, talking about the, anything diet related or exercise related and things like that. So that being said, right, so if that 500 calorie deficit is only by having the muscle, it's not even doing the workouts to build the muscle, right? That workout, that energy expenditure is going to be additional calorie burn on top of that. So that's the thing where as you start to build more muscle, your body starts to need more calories, right? So people, when they're wanting to lose weight, reverse diabetes, things like that, they want to cut fat, they want to cut that off. But what they don't realize is by adding that muscle, you're going to feel better. You're going to be able to do more things. You're going to be able to do more things more easily. You're going to be able to train more easily. It's not going to feel as difficult. You're going to burn a lot more calories just in having that muscle, but then you're going to burn a lot more calories just from doing that exercise. So you can eat more and then maintain that weight. That's the biggest thing, So that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize is as you start to lose weight via building muscle, you wind up needing to increase your calories, not decrease your calories. And that's where people actually have a big problem with losing weight sometimes, is because they don't get it, right? They start in their caloric deficit that's like here, right? And they're losing weight, they're doing well, and then they get to a plateau, right? Because their body needs now more calories because they've added muscle to their frame. So what a lot of people do is they reduce the calories, right? I'm trying to lose weight and I lost the weight, but now I'm not losing weight. So what do? I need to decrease my calories. No, you need to increase your calories. You get so low that your body's like, yo, we need food. We need fuel. Like we can't do what you're doing with what you're giving us. So that's a thing that people get.
Then, and I don't mean to cut you off, but that said, it's the quality of calorie at that point. It's the healthy fat, it's the protein, it's the lean Greek, it's the green leafy vegetables. It's that we're talking about increasing, because some folks says, oh, well, I need to eat more. Now all of a sudden they're going back to the Entenmann's and Breyer's ice cream and Ben and Jerry's, and that's not necessarily going to be the thing to eat at that point. We're trying to maintain a healthy metabolism. Am I correct?
Yes and no, right? So for the most part, yes, right? As far as being healthy, yes. Now that being said, people like food, they like ice cream, they like things like that. So that's one thing that I try to make, really clear to people is you can't be doing that stuff all the time, right? Obviously, like that's not a surprise to anybody. But, like I said, if you add that 10 pounds of muscle, right, that's an additional 500 calories a day that your body is burning just to have that muscle. Then say you burn another 500 calories from the workout, right? That because you have to be working out to put on the 10 pounds of muscle, and then you got to keep working out. You can't just like go and then that's it, and then you move on, with your life. You got to, this is just what you do now. It's part of your life. It's part of being active. You can't just build a good body in 3-6 months, a year, and then that's it. And then you just get to keep it forever and not do anything. You have to maintain it. You have to maintain your house. You have to maintain your car. You have to maintain everything. That being said, if you have that 500 calorie deficit from the muscle gain, another 500 calorie deficit from the workout itself, there's 1,000 calories there. So while we're in the weight loss phase, then we want to use that deficit to get the weight off, right? Now, once the weight is off and we're maintaining that, you got 1,000 calories a day that you can play with. And that's the deficit, right? So that's not talking about what you need. We're talking about your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate. That's what your body needs just to maintain, right? Just to be alive, even if you don't move or anything, right? So we're talking about 1,000 calories deficit off of that, right? So we need to make that up. If we've already lost the weight, we need to make that deficit up. So you can add, you want to add mostly healthy calories, like you said. But to my point, though, that gives you the opportunity to have a little bit more freedom with your diet. You can have, I knew one guy, he was a bodybuilder, so a very big guy, burned a lot of calories, but he did a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream every single night, was part of his diet, so to speak. It was something that he really liked, and he fit that into his macros with everything else that he was eating that was healthy.
So you can so the idea is to reward yourself, number one, okay? Because if you're rewarding yourself, right, you have something to look forward to, so you're less likely to go off the rails, so to speak.
Right.
But number two, you're also fitting that into the model for maintaining and improving your metabolism.
Yes.
So that's the idea. I want to switch gears for a second, okay, if you don't mind, okay, because you're a fascinating guy. That's why I had to reach out to you, because I saw this guy and I said, got to talk to him. Got to figure out what he's about. He's a cool dude. So in addition to this, all right, seeing that it is Lifts with Wolves, tell us about the Wolves. And I got my wolf ring on for the occasion.
Oh, right on. Excellent. So,
wolves, man.
So yeah, I have two. They're wolf hybrids. So they're gray wolf mixed with husky, Malamute, and German Shepherd, or how that mix goes. So, kind of talking about that mix. So my boy, the black one, Kohu, that you may have seen, he's 50% wolf, and then the other 50% is made up of those other three, right? And then Domino, my female, the gray one, she's 33% wolf, and then the additional is made up of the other three, the husky, the Malamute, the German Shepherd. So when those dogs are generally bred together, there's a reason why it's usually a combination of that mix. So you have the wolf, obviously, and then you have huskies, Malamutes, and German Shepherds, all of which have pretty similar wolf characteristics. So when you breed them together, as far as the look goes, it's going to come out looking, very wolfy, because you're mixing the wolf with dogs that look like wolves, right? But from a behavior standpoint, the reason why they use those three are huskies are very docile, right? They're very, very sweet. I also have a purebred husky, so they're very, very, very friendly dogs. Malamutes are also very, very friendly dogs. But those two dogs are sled dogs, right? So they're bred as sled dogs, and part of their heritage of that breed is to ignore human orders, right? And the reason being is it's actually a safety thing. So as sled dogs, if they go onto like a frozen lake that's their musher orders them onto a frozen lake that's not thick enough, they can sense that and they'll be like, no, we're not doing this, and they'll leave. Or if there's a risk of avalanche or something like that. So if the reason why is they know better, what I'm saying? So when they're pulling the sled, if their musher gives them a command that's going to put all of them at risk, they're bred to disobey for everybody's best interest. But you mix that with a wolf who's a wild animal. I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried to get the attention of a wild animal before. They don't care, So if you just have like the husky or the Malamute mixed with a wolf, you're going to have an animal that doesn't really listen very much. Excuse me. So then the German Shepherd, on the other hand, is very highly trainable. That's why they're used for police, military, things like that, right? So you get the highly trainable qualities from the German Shepherd, along with the docile qualities of the Huskies and the Malamutes, things like that. So it all kind of goes together into a better animal.
That's pretty amazing by itself. So, I would ask you what got you into that, but there's so many different things, so many different questions I wanted to ask you. And so I wanted to move on to something else, because you have an adventurous spirit. And I get the impression that it's something that's inherited. So could you tell me a little bit about that, the heritage that you have in terms of being an adventurer and an adventurous soul?
So that's what I was mentioning with about the Crusher Mountain. The idea that was definitely a meaningful thing to me. My dad, he was the one that got me into working out in the beginning. He was a doctor and a very avid mountain climber. So he's a family practice doctor. So he was very, very into health and fitness and wellness. He was super, super active. He would run pretty much every day, do huge bike rides. He lifted, did all kinds of things, but he was a very, very avid mountain climber. So we live in Colorado. We have all the 14ers out here, the 14,000 foot mountains.
Mhm.
So he climbed, I don't even know how many of those. Like he climbed once he retired from practicing medicine, he became a health coach and a life coach.
Mhm.
And then he would climb. He'd do a 14er every weekend, pretty much,
Wow.
particularly during the summer. He went to Kilimanjaro in Africa, climbed that mountain that's actually a volcano, um, but it's the highest peak in Africa. So he did
Yeah.
that. On his 60th birthday, he climbed the highest peak in 4 states within 24 hours. So I
Wow.
did that on his 60th birthday. And
How do you
then
manage to
six,
do all that in 24 hours? How did you manage to do that?
so I don't remember off the top of my head what 4 states it was. Um, I want to say it was towards like Oklahoma and Nebraska. I think those were two of them. So like the highest peak in Nebraska is like a big hill. You know what I'm saying? So the highest, I think Mount Evans is the highest peak in Colorado, if I remember right. And I don't know the number off the top of my head. But so anyway, like the highest peak in Colorado is a pretty big mountain. You know what I'm saying? The highest peak in Nebraska is going to be like a big hill. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I think it was Colorado, Nebraska, Wyoming, and Oklahoma, maybe, or something like that. I don't remember. I don't want to misquote or anything like that. But same thing. Wyoming has some decent sized mountains. Oklahoma probably not. So it was a little bit strategic too. But yeah, I mean, you're moving. You know,
Yeah.
you're climbing,
Exactly.
you're getting up, you're getting down, you're driving to the next thing. Um,
But what I love about that, okay, is he's using his body naturally. And even though your focus is on the gym, you're still lifting heavy things, you're doing things like that. And the fact is, a lot of that has been lost in general society. There was a time when, one way or another, we all had to either climb a mountain, or crush a mountain, crush through it, because we had to dig our own holes, so to speak, to get through things.
yeah.
We had to chop the wood to make the fire. We had to go ahead and do all sorts of things in order just to operate on daily life. Now we have the modern conveniences, which in many cases can be fatal conveniences. In some cases, they're just conveniences that lead to a sedentary life that does nothing but destroy our bodies.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing thing to do to see you focus in a with nature,
Mhm.
of the wolves and everything, as well as having that heritage where you do. One more thing I wanted to ask you about also was the concept of mindfulness when it comes
Mhm.
to not just weight loss, but overall health and wellness. How does that play a role?
That's the biggest role, to be honest. That's the biggest role, because like the way that I put it to everybody is, I mean, my job is not necessary. You know what I'm saying? I'm a trainer. I have my app. I do nutrition. I have a supplement company. All of that stuff, right? That's not necessary because the average person can go like if you're an average person that just wants to be healthier, you're not trying to necessarily have an elite level physique or anything like that, but you just want to look good and feel good and be able to move and feel comfortable with your shirt off at the pool or something like that, anything like that. It doesn't take that much to accomplish that. And you can find a good workout program on the internet in 5 minutes for free. You can find a good diet on the internet in 5 minutes for free. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's necessarily the best, but you can find what's adequate to get you where you want to be in less than 10 minutes for free. Now it's doing those things that's a different story, right? Even with, like if I do a program for somebody, they still have to do it, right? Like if I do the diet, they still have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So even if I give them everything on the silver platter to be successful, they still have to do it. And that comes from here. You know what I'm saying? And that's the biggest thing that I focus on with people is the mental side of things, the mindfulness, the awareness, the consciousness, and all of that, because it's the doing of those things, right? And that's where I try to break it down to people and just get real with them. Like it's so many people have such a negative belief system on diet on exercise. You know, I put it this way that, you know, we live in a society that's so deconditioned that a 20-minute walk is considered exercise. It's not like that's what your body does. Like that's what we're made to do. You know, we're one of the only creatures on the planet that walks on two legs. You know what I'm saying? We're, as far as I know, one of the only that does it predominantly. Bears can do that, as a few other animals can do that, but we're the only ones that's our primary mode of movement. We also, you know, if you start eating healthy, people call it dieting, not just eating healthy. Like, why are you eating like that? Because that's what you're supposed to do, you know. But we're so used to the junk and the fast food and the decadency. Like that's something that I'm not into all that, to be honest. Like when you make this food that's just like 50 different things mixed together, I'm like, that's too much, man. Like, stop.
Now
You know what
define
I'm saying?
50 different things mixed together, because I can pull out some garam masala that's naturally made from India, and they got about 50 different spices in there. You know, so
Oh yeah. I'm telling you, and there are some things that are good. I mean, I'm not going to be black and white about the whole thing, but to my point, like when you have some with like 7 different cheeses in it, you know,
yeah,
and maybe something like that, you know, and then some sort of sauce, some cream sauce mixed into that with the cheese, and then all kinds of other stuff does just it can taste good. Sorry, I personally am not into all that, but I get it. But at the same time, it's about being able to say no when you need to and moderate that stuff. You know, I'm not the kind of person that says, you know, just all that shouldn't be da 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 da. No, like I was talking about earlier with the ice cream and maintaining. Like, you know, I definitely believe in enjoying yourself and enjoying food. But and that's part of where the workout comes into play. I mean, I've had clients in the past that have literally told me that their goal, when I ask what's your goal, and they'll tell me, I just want to work out so I can eat whatever I want. And I'm like, cool. Like if that's what you want, cool. You know, and that's it. Is they're not necessarily trying to change their body. And the people that have told me that, I've never had somebody that was extremely overweight tell me that. You know, everybody that I've ever had tell me that was at an acceptable weight at the time. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have a goal to lose weight, and they didn't really need to. They were healthy. They didn't necessarily have like a fitness model physique, but they looked good. They looked fine. They looked healthy. They felt good, and they enjoyed eating good food, and so they exercised to burn calories so that they could do that and maintain that. You know, it's so we're talking about the mindfulness aspect of it, though. Where I get into it with people is people have this idea that exercise is just so terrible, you know, and there's so many people that just get so like in their head just about going to the gym. Now, I'm not even talking about actually going to the gym. I'm talking about the idea of going to the gym, right?
yeah,
Just thinking about going to work out, and they start getting anxiety and all this stuff, and nothing's happened. Like you're still just sitting there. You just are considering it, and you've created such a negative idea of this experience in your mind that now it's starting to feel real. That's where you're creating all this anxiety from. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't need to be like that. You know, for a person that's never been to the gym before, you just need to go and start doing something. You know, I heard somebody one time that they would go to the gym, and this person had like a lot of anxiety about going to the gym. But for a month, they would go to the gym and sit in the parking lot 3 days a week and go home. And I think you actually told me that when we talked before.
well, yeah. It's kind of funny you mentioned that. It's kind of like that. With one of my clients, what I've done, because my like the mindset is the first thing when it comes to reversing type 2 diabetes, working out, building muscle, anything that any endeavor. And so one of the things I had them do is I had 2 clients. One of them I had them just go to the gym and get there, watch the people go in, just get yourself comfortable being there. Okay, do that for a couple of weeks. Then after he got through, did that for a little while, we got him to go in the gym and just, and I introduced him to different ones and let him know what he's doing. and then basically told him, don't bother him. And so, just so he can get, used to just seeing what's going on and being there, being around it. And then we work
building a habit.
Yeah, exactly. So now ultimately we got him to touch the stuff and then actually do a couple of reps, just take him through the paces. Now my other client, Chris, with him, I got him to do his workout at home. And we had him actually just buy 2 dumbbells. And I said, you go ahead and name them. And he wrote on there Ren and Snippy. So those are his 2 dumbbells. After I had him talk to them. And then after he got used to seeing them, talking to them, holding them, then it was time to actually get into doing at least 1 or 2 different exercises that would target the muscles that we wanted to target. And after a while, not only did the weight come off, but even his ex-wife texted me and said, he's looking really good, Yeah. And so that's the thing, working with the mind in that case, helping them to understand, getting used to the idea. And then going through a meditation process whereby they actually can visualize themselves, see the end result, as opposed to thinking that this is a lot of work, but seeing the end result, conceiving to what you want to achieve and committing to doing what it takes to get there. So many people are, they let fear hold them down. And that's much of the problem. So listen, you mentioned a couple of things, and I wanted to sort of circle back to those things because I want individuals to avail themselves of all the tools that you have available to them through your company. Now, number one, you mentioned that you had an app. Tell us about your app. What do you have a trial period, and what can that app do for an individual, say, given the 90-day period?
Yes, I have an app. I have 7 different programs on there right now. I'm currently right in the middle of working on doing a massive update on there. I'm adding over 400 new exercises and like 10 more programs. So I'll have, when we're done, I think 16 different programs, and I said over 400 different exercises. So we have bodybuilding programs, strength programs, a power building program, which is kind of a combination of bodybuilding and strength. Full body program. That's what I do personally. That's my favorite way to train. I have just an upper body, lower body program, which is more of a beginner program. I'm doing a 3-day new to the gym program that'll be just 3 days, most basic stuff, so you can just learn and get comfortable with the gym. I have 2 body weight only programs that are on there for people doing at home. And then I'm doing 2 different free weight only programs for people to have like a home gym. Like I have a home gym I work out in my garage. It's fairly well equipped, like a commercial gym. Not everybody has that. So I have a lot of people with home gyms that are on my app currently that have asked for a free weight only program so that they can do that. They don't have as much equipment to work with. So I'm doing that, a 4-day one and a 5-day one of that free weight only. So that'll be just dumbbells and barbells and that's it, type of thing.
Nice.
So the
supplementation. Tell us about that.
So supplements, I have a supplement company as well. It's called True Alpha Supplements, truealphasupplements.com. So there we have 20 different products. We have protein, pre-workout, fat burners, test boosters, multivitamins, essential fatty acids, all kinds of stuff like that. So that's different supplements for different benefits. I actually have a whole mental health line as well. That's really, really awesome. I have it's called the Alpha Mind. It's like a brain support. It's going to clear that kind of streaming thoughts. It's going to give you a lot more focused energy. It's that supplement is like by far the best supplement I've ever taken in my life. The Alpha Mind. It's amazing. Better than even all the fitness stuff. Like, it's not really a fitness supplement. I mean, it's going to give you better focus and energy, so it is going to help with your workouts. It's not really designed as like a workout supplement. It's like a general health supplement, but hands down, that thing will change your life. So I have that. I have a blend of 9 or 10 different mushrooms for an immune boost that helps with brain function, things like that. I have an anxiety supplement that just helps with calming, things like that. So a lot of different things there for different purposes.
Then we're going to have you back because there's so many things we can talk about, and we just geek out on because you're amazing, like I said. And I love the whole line. You have everything well-rounded from online training to in-person training to supplementation to even just to the app itself. So you've got these tremendous avenues of health and wellness for my community, my clients, and I'd love to go ahead and talk with you again. But I have one last question to ask you. And that's the question that I asked all of my clients, all of my guests on my show. Ben Corliss, what does it mean to you to crush your mountain?
Well, I think a mountain as an obstacle, right? And I heard a quote one time that said the bottom of one mountain is the top of the next. So we have here in Colorado, in Colorado Springs where I live, we have this is small. It's on a mountain. We call it the incline, and it's an old. It used to be an old where they take a mining cart up to the mine. So they had like railroad spikes, or not spikes, the railroad ties put in the mountain to take the cart up there that are basically like steps. And it's a mile long, but it gains like something like 3,000 feet of elevation within a mile or something. It's very, very, very steep. But there's a part on that where they call it the false top because it looks like you're getting to the top and to like a little flat spot and then a whole lot more up to go. So it's a very good representation of that the top of one mountain is the bottom of the next. So the way I look at that is just that's your obstacle, and you can get there and you can stop and then that's it. That's the end. I remember one point in my life when I want to say I was about 27, so it's probably about 10 years ago, and I didn't have like a bad life. I had a good life, but it was just not everything, right? I remember, I think I was walking back up my driveway from checking the mail, and I remember thinking like, so is this it? This is all there is? Like, this is it? And I was like, no, like this is not going to be the rest of my life. And there was nothing wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had at the time I was doing the personal training. I had a home gym there that I trained out of. I was married to my ex-wife at the time. I had my daughter, my two dogs at that time, two huskies back then at the time. Nice house, like everything was good, but that was it. It was just good. You know what I'm saying? And so crushing a mountain to me means not limiting yourself, and it kind of to bring it full circle back to what we were talking about in the beginning, when you'd asked me, if somebody passes away in their 50s, can you say that they live a full life? And that's what I'm saying. If you haven't conquered your mountain, then no, you haven't. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's it. I mean, you think about coming from the east across the west to settle the west. They had to go over those mountains, or what's crazier to me was they had to blow holes through the mountains with dynamite and pickaxes was what they had at the time to literally cut through a whole effing mountain just to get to where I live, not to mention Vegas, California, everything on the other side of the Rocky Mountains, another third of the country almost, we would have completely missed if you'd gone to a mountain, just stopped right there, And, bring it back to my dad. My dad actually passed away in a mountain climbing accident. He was climbing back in 2016. Long's Peak was the peak that he was on. There's a part called the Narrows, and it's a very, very steep part where it's not straight up. You should probably be tied in. People don't. They just kind of boulder across there, which I don't know why. But he stepped in like a foothole and there was ice. He was climbing October 1st, which is a little bit late in the year. Slipped on some ice and fell 150 feet just onto rocks, and that was how he died. And so, I mean, that was definitely a big surprise. To be perfectly honest, my mom's been overweight my entire life. Her dad passed away at 65 of a heart attack. Her brother passed away at 49 of a heart attack. Her other brother almost passed away. He had a quadruple bypass heart surgery and saved him. So heart disease runs in my mom's family very much. My mom's, like I said, been overweight my entire life. So I've always been ready for a very long time. I've been kind of prepared for my mom to pass early, just with that family history and her health. My dad, like I said earlier, was very, very active his whole life. So that was never a thought in my mind of my dad passing early. So it was definitely a big surprise, you know, when that happened. It was tough, but I mean, he was doing what he loved, you know what I'm saying? And I can't think of a better way to go. I mean, like my grandpa, his dad, that I was saying, had passed away earlier. He, like I said, he was 92 years old, passed away in his sleep at home. We knew all that was coming. Everybody got to say goodbye. I mean, he lived a long, full life. All of his kids were very successful. All the grandkids have been very successful. I'm like, man, you won life, you know. So those are two different things. You know, my grandpa won crushing that mountain of life, of living a whole, long, full life and accomplishing pretty much everything that he wanted to do. My dad passed away at 61, young, but he was doing what he loved to do, and at the same time fit a lot of life into his years, even though the years were a little bit shorter. So yeah, I mean, there's going back to the beginning. Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. Is it definitely is the amount of life in your years, but you still can have a lot of years in your life too, you know. So it's definitely where, you know, being healthy it only makes sense to me. I don't know why you'd want to go through life struggling and in pain.
That's so true. That's so true. Well, that's the reason why we get individuals like you on this program. That's the reason why we want to get a chance to share with individuals your knowledge and your encouragement, because people need to understand that we don't have to stay the way they are. And I dare I say it, I've said it before, the healthcare industry, indeed the sick care industry, really is about keeping you sick so you can pay somebody else. So why stay there like that? I want to thank Ben again for being here. And like I say, friends, take care of yourselves, take care of your bodies. Don't just climb your mountain, crush through it. And we'll see you next time. Thanks again, Ben.